in terms of active international AMS who are doing a double act. And secondly, they have got covering a subject which is very much of its time. It's from an area that's been around for some time, but probably is new to everybody. Because as we all know, both client and consumer demands are in decline. And what we're all trying to do is that kind of alchemy is when the world is kind of going backwards, how do we generate more business? And I'm delighted that we've got John Charlesworth, who's Director of Client Relations at Active International, and Duncan Collins, Managing Director of media company AMS, who are going to present to us about how we can actually, I'm going to call it alchemy, but how can we actually, in times when things are declining, generate more business using media and product and improve all our fortunes, not just for us as agency people, but for our clients. So having built that introduction, and I'd like to introduce John and Duncan, who will take you through the presentation. Now, in the chat room, there is opportunity for asking questions. And when they've finished, I will be calling on various people based upon what you put in the chat room, or even things you haven't put in the chat room, in order that we can have it as interactive as possible. So John and Duncan will talk for about 25 minutes, and then we can have another 25 minutes in terms of exploring some of these solutions. For now, over to John.
Actually, over to Duncan. Thanks, Clive.
Over to Duncan.
You did say we were a double act. It's fine.
Yeah, both of you.
You hum it and I'll sing it.
Yeah, I don't want you singing. Thanks, Clive, and good afternoon, everyone. So today's objective is very much to demonstrate how at a time of suppressed consumer demand and falling client budgets, there are alternate opportunities to stimulate trading. What we're seeing now is that the pandemic has caused a demand and supply shock, with brands in many sectors no longer having a product to advertise, coupled with consumer confidence at an all-time low. According to the latest IPA Bellwether report, UK marketing budgets have been slashed to their lowest levels in 20 years, from -6 in Q1 to -51 in Q2. And although it can be hoped, of course, that there are signs of recovery across Q3 and Q4, both spend and UK consumer confidence will continue to be significantly down year on year. So today, I'm going to highlight some of the innovations that are emerging from media owners to help re-energise their marketing. And John is going to share some of the innovations which will help clients unblock their product distribution. For those of you who don't know us, a little bit of background. I'll do a bit on AMS and then John can do a bit on Active. AMS Media Group is a fully accredited independent media planning and buying agency with offices in King's Cross and Leeds. And we pride ourselves on actually making sense in a world of increasing complexity. It gave us a reason to use the MBS. Trading since 1975 and employing over 30 people, we've always strived to be trusted business partners for our clients by being focused on their objective, not ours, and all delivered, of course, cost effectively.
Cool. From my point of view, I mean, what I will say is that we will share this document at the end of the presentation anyway, so I won't go through things word for word. As Active as a business, we're in 14 countries with a global leader in corporate trade. Our real aim is to try and drive real value for our clients by allowing them to pay for things that they want with things that they have. So use their product to pay for legitimate business costs where they normally have to find the cash to do so. And in doing that, we're completely independent of any media agency, any network, and we can work completely alongside any agency to deliver incremental value for their clients.
Okay, well, I think, you know, we've used this word quite a bit, I'm sure, unprecedented, and we certainly are in unprecedented times. And it's just before we get into this, really reflecting on where the market is and where some people are forecasting it will finish. You know, prior to the pandemic, and even factoring in disruption by Brexit, the UK ad market was still forecasting for the 10th consecutive year a year of growth. But now, with its impact on marketing becoming clearer, estimates of the scale of the downturn range from -17% to -30% year on year, which is wiping out between 4 billion and 7.5 billion from the UK ad market. And of course, it could be more as we get into Q4. And although ad spend is expected to return to growth in 2021, absolute levels of investment and not expected to surpass 2019 total to at least 2022. So it's all about working smarter, and we're starting to see this now that clients, agencies and media owners are starting to work more together to find innovative and alternative solutions to stimulate trading back into the market. An increasing number of independent agencies, good to see, are already busy redefining the way they work, placing more emphasis on working smart with clients post-COVID to establish and maintain a competitive edge over the networks. What we are also seeing is a willingness from media owners to be more flexible and open to new innovation ways of trading, which we see as continuing to 2021. Obviously, it's all about clients and addressing their challenges, and clients are facing a multiple number of challenges right now, and some all at the same time. They're faced with lower consumer demand for their products, driven by the current economic reality. Their inability to get products out to and from distribution points, creating channel blockage, which is leading to stockpiling of their goods in warehouses. And although lessons from previous recessions are always quite clear, that the most effective approach is to maintain investment, build the brand, and reap the reward in recovery, it's also increasingly clear that for many others, the advice is academic. Maintaining ad spend is not an option. The recession is so sharp that major budget cuts are unavoidable for many brands who have always been dependent on it to drive consumer demand. So we see it as 2 points of contact here. There's downstream and upstream solutions. It's all about navigating the obstacles that are in the way of re-energizing the market. Is it at source or is it by channel? Certainly what we're seeing is clients need guidance from their agencies right now to either address their current business's challenges, and by looking at both downstream and upstream solutions, we can help them unlock potential new trading routes outside of normal parameters. When we talk about downstream, we're talking about agencies like AMS who are working with media owners to help clients reach their target audiences by channel through more innovative ways of doing business in a more cost-effective manner. Or upstream, the corporate trade companies such as Active are finding solutions for clients to release the value in slow-moving or unsold stock to help find other business costs, including marketing, of course. So focusing on downstream innovation at the media owner flexibility, we're seeing innovations by channel range from distressed deals at reduced pricing or increasing the impacts delivered free of charge. Shared risk deals can be part paid in cash and part in sales response, where the media owner guarantees delivery. And de-risk content marketing, where clients are funding video content creation whilst also receiving the same value back in spot airtime. Just looking at these three instances in a little bit more detail, certainly from a distressed deals, as the uncertainty brought on by the pandemic continues into the second half of the year and the media market becomes more short-term, we are now seeing media owners adapting to this new trading conditions and becoming more fluid in their approach to deals. This is something that independent agencies are better placed to act upon than the networks, where legacy deals represent the greatest challenge to break. And that's true. This is represented right now by either softer pricing, such as bigger discounts, or even a guaranteed percentage of additional impacts being delivered by a campaign. As some media owners continue to increase during lockdown, increased audiences. And as we move into Q4 in 2021, expectations are that more of these deals will be forthcoming, and some of the historical trading parameters, such as share, guaranteed spends, etc., will start to disappear. Looking at shared risk, although shared risk is nothing new, it's been around for quite some time. Again, media owners are now more open to these types of deal than ever before. The principle being a part cash payment plus a pre-agreed cost per action, which typically can be an inquiry, a download, sales, etc., which is then paid by the client or not, dependent on the campaign results. Although called share risk, the onus is very much on the media owner to deliver the desired outcome. In a recent shared risk campaign brought by us, we saw a ROI result 25% above that of normal trading. Moving on to de-risk content marketing. With the continued pressure of programming budgets and increasing need to fill TV schedules, miniatures across UK TV, broadcasters are becoming more open to commercially funded content. It's a great way of delivering enhanced media value for clients without increasing cash outlay, as well as providing an extensive supply of video content for the client to use across their own social platforms. We work closely with production companies, broadcasters and advertisers with the sole aim of creating an on-brand, high-quality programme which has been pre-approved prior to production. At AMS, we recently committed a deal for one of our FMCG clients, which will see a TV show, which is 10 times 30 minutes in length, scheduled on mainstream TV in relevant branded content, with the potential to sell the show on to other global markets, while also accessing traditional spot airtime at the same investment level. I'm now going to hand over to John, who's going to explain more about corporate trade and how Active help release the value in clients' unsold stock.
Thanks, Duncan. Would you mind driving for me? Is that okay?
That's fine.
So Duncan's spoken about some really efficient ways of trying to drive incremental value for clients when they have a marketing budget. But at the moment, we know that our clients are really suffering. They're either suffering because their stores have been closed, they're suffering because consumer demand has reduced, or they're just suffering because they have got products sat in warehouses that is gathering dust that they expected to sell, but they have not had the opportunity to do so. And what's happening is that these businesses are looking at this stock, this tied up capital, and saying, actually, we have a cost here, and this cost is preventing us being able to spend on marketing because we just physically haven't got the cash within the business to do so. So our aim, really Active, is to go, actually, how can we release the value in this stock that clients have got in their warehouses that is costing them money to store, is costing them money in terms of devaluing day on day, and use that value to fund things that sell more first-line product, such as marketing. Duncan, if you mind flipping the slide. So what we do at Active is we work with our clients to restore value to undervalued or devalued stocks, things that are sat in their warehouses, to try and use that value to fund marketing and wider business costs. We also look at actually how they can use product that they have to increment the marketing budgets they already have to allow them to get more bang for their buck. And also, outside of that, we can work with clients to guarantee their media campaigns are going to work. And we do this by having an ROI model where for every £1 they spend via Active that we're able to trade with our media partners, we will guarantee to buy back a percentage of that £1 from them in new cash business. So it's a really motivational way of actually de-risking some of their advertising spend. But what is corporate trade? In essence, at its heart, it's allowing clients and media owners to that extent to pay for things that they want with something they have, their product. And from our clients' point of view, we know that they at the moment are sat on loads of product, which is costing them money, that they would like to be able to release that value to do something different with. And that's where we step in. And that's why we're talking to you guys today about helping clients to come up with solutions. Duncan. In terms of who we deal with, and I touched on the last slide that we deal with clients, but also we deal with media owners. The reason we deal with both sides is they both have a currency that is of value. They have the product, but also media owners have airtime. So to give you an example, someone like Sky Television works with us and they will fund all their out-of-home advertising via Active with their airtime. We will then use that airtime for one of our other clients who may be able to pay for that airtime partly in cars or partly in holidays. And we sit in the middle of this, allowing the clients to, again, fund things they want with things they have. And this is used via a mechanic called trade credits, which in essence is a holding position. So they can give up value when they have an excess of it and realize it when they need it. So how do clients tend to use this? So in a normal marketplace, a client will have a marketing budget. And without barter, they would spend that marketing budget via their agency like AMS to deliver the campaign against the KPIs and the pricing that they've expected. By us being involved in a market which is currently distressed, but also in a stronger marketplace, by working with someone like Active International, a client can take that marketing campaign. If they're looking to move into new channels, looking to spend more year on year, but haven't got the budget to do so, by working with us, we can allow them to fund their marketing costs. And in this example, 85% in cash and 15% in stock. And that stock could be anything from first line stock, such as holidays, flights, vehicles, to distress stock, so things that they don't want that may be discontinued, maybe short dated, and we work with them in different ways to be able to utilize their stock to deliver incremental value to them. And how they use that value is entirely up to them. So we have a number of clients who will take the value they have in the stock that they no longer require, and they'll put it on top of their media plan to increment their media campaign. But also currently, when a marketplace is difficult as it is post-COVID, what they might do is they will look at, actually, can we fund our marketing campaign partly with stock? And that saving we make, can we bring back to the bottom line to make the business more profitable? Or can we use it to do something else within the company that we need to do that urgently needs addressing? So we work with clients in a number of ways to try and do this. And as sort of touched on earlier, there is one way of working, which is incrementing a media plan with stock. But also there is that return on investment model where we'll guarantee to buy product back from them for cash by trading their marketing spend. In essence, de-risking it and also incrementing the organic results they will get from that media campaign. But should a client decide that they don't want us to be involved in their stock because either it is very brand sensitive, they feel that they have a better route to market than we do, or that they want to use it for something else internally, we can still work with them to deliver incremental value by allowing them to access the positions we have with media owners to be able to drive more value for them over and above what will be achieved in a normal marketplace. Okay. And we do this without changing the way that they work with their advertising agencies such as AMS, without changing the way they invoice, and also with complete control for them in terms of how we sell that product on their behalf. So I won't go through the whole process, but the main thing is that by working with us, we don't affect the prices that are negotiated by the agency. We don't affect the positioning or the value that is driven by the agency. What we do is we completely complement them by looking at areas of the plan the way we can generate more value for the client by allowing them to pay for that in stock. In doing that, we can then go to the client and say, of this plan, X percentage is payable in stock. We then agree with the client where that stock will come from, where that stock can go to from their point of view, and go into contract to make sure that it's distributed in a way that doesn't damage the brand, doesn't cannibalize any current market they have, but delivers incremental value to them in a way that they maybe couldn't do on their own. Okay, Duncan? And that's why we work with 150 different companies across the UK. So you've got anybody in there, and I touched on Sky being on there earlier. So there's companies on there from ones like Hewlett-Packard and BMW, where you can automatically see that they will have an excess of vehicles or an excess of technology that we can then help them release the value from to be able to use to fund their TV campaigns or to fund their out-of-home advertising. But also you'll see people on there like David Lloyd, where we will use their memberships and offer those memberships to our partners for things like on-pack promotions. Because for them, if they can use something that in essence costs them very little, but to deliver something that they would normally have to pay cash for, it's a real benefit to them for their business and also drives higher footfall within it. Okay. So what are the benefits for clients? And I think that's fairly evident. From a client point of view, they can increase their marketing budget using things that they, in essence, either don't want or have margin built into. So therefore, they are getting more than they would do if they pay for it in cash. It allows them to clear old and surplus stock, which costs them money to store, it devalues day on day, and it releases that value to use something that they normally have to pay cash for. But also, and this is a key point that a lot of our clients like about working with us, we can get them into areas that they normally wouldn't be able to get into because of the way we work as a business. So as an example, we work with a champagne company. They pay for their marketing with us partly in champagne. We then work with events such as Henley, big black tie events, where they will pay us for that champagne in tickets, or if it's a hotel in room nights, therefore getting that brand into somewhere it normally wouldn't be able to because of the mechanics that we're able to put in place. Okay. For agencies, firstly, it's about doing the right thing for your client, because what this allows them to do is to spend more, positively impact their bottom line by driving more first line product sales. And also it really shows that you're thinking about much more than just the marketing area of their business, because you're then looking at the financial situation, their stock management, their supply chain. It gives you a competitive advantage against your competition, because if people are not engaging with the likes of ourselves, then they don't understand the value we can drive for their clients. And as such, in a pitch situation, we can drive significant benefit and have been involved in agencies winning pieces of business via the benefit we can bring by looking at their media plans or being able to release value in stocks that they hold. But also we're a revenue stream for agencies, because we understand that working with us, it does take a little bit more than not working with us. You know, we need people's time. We need people to be able to talk to their clients about it. And we will pay agencies a commission based on that to fund the time that we expect them to take in order to help them sell the concept. And finally, for media owners, they want to try and drive as much value as possible for clients. This is a way for media owners to get their clients, or get clients to spend more with them, because obviously we work with everybody apart from Google and Facebook in the marketplace. So what we can do is we can drive incremental value for clients who can then afford things they maybe wouldn't do normally, such as sponsorships, such as ad-funded programming, such as wraps and specials, because they're able to part fund that cost in their product. Also, from a media owner point of view, they use something that they have, their media space, to fund the cost that they would have to find cash for. So we do a lot with media owners in the area of content. So we fund programs for TV channels. We pay for the program to be created. The TV channel pays us back in airtime. For upgrading their tech, you know, very pertinent at the current time, as people are trying to move into a more of a remote working situation. We're helping media owners supply laptops and printers to their staff. We've even done things like energy. So we actually helped ITV fund their energy via our partner SSE, with ITV paying part of the cost in ITV airtime. So we sit down with a lot of our media owners, probably as much as we sit down with our clients, to go, what costs do you have and how can we help you fund them? Because by having media owners on board and understanding what we do and willing to access our opportunities, it means we can drive more value for our clients. So to give you a couple of examples. So Specsavers have been a client of ours since 2005, and we are sort of an intrinsic part of how they plan and buy their media and how they budget for it annually. Specsavers came to us a couple of years ago with a problem, and that problem was and I don't know, I can't actually see anybody, so as a glasses wearer, Specsavers have an own brand premium product called Osiris. And Osiris they charge £100, £120 a frame for. Now they decided to launch into the sunglasses market. And when you buy sunglasses, people don't tend to buy based on just the look, they buy on brand. People buy Ray-Ban, they buy Oakley. And as such, the glasses that they launched with their own label designer of Osiris didn't do very well. So they came to us with a stock of products that weren't selling. We helped them realize the value in that by finding a new market, which actually was in Australia for those glasses. And they used the value that we released from those products when we paid them in trade credits to fund their sponsorship of Channel 4 movies for 2 years. Now that was an £8 million product, and they part funded that using glasses that they didn't want. Another example would be working with Celebrity Cruises. Now it's probably not the most pertinent for the current marketplace, but Celebrity Cruises came to us about a year ago. Now, the thing with holidays, and we are a travel agent, so we understand how the travel market works, is that people tend to book January, February and September. That's the peak periods. So if any of the travel companies can steal a march on their competition by getting people to book before those windows, they're obviously ahead of the game. So we sat down with Celebrity Cruises and said, right, if you can try and push that window into November and December to get people to book their holiday earlier, that'd be really beneficial for you as a business. But we also understand that Christmas is probably the only thing on their mind, because it's a big ticket cost and people need to save money in order to buy presents. So how about we work with one of our other partners, which was House of Fraser, and say, if you give away a House of Fraser voucher for anyone who books a cruise pre-Christmas, in essence, you're saying, let us pay for Christmas for you, and then you can book your holiday for next year. So don't wait till January to have to do this. We agreed this campaign with the guys at Celebrity Cruises. Celebrity Cruises actually paid for the gift cards via Active in cruise rooms. So they used something they had an excess of, which was cruise rooms, to buy something that we already had, which was gift cards. And we'd received those gift cards as part payment for a TV campaign we'd done for House of Fraser. And that drove a 26% increase year on year in deposits in the pre-Christmas period. So for something that they, in essence, got for zero cost because they would have had the excess rooms anyway, they got something that drove more first-line cash sales. And really, that's the conversations we like to have with clients, is to talk about what problems do they have, what pinch points do they have, and how can we help them release some of the value in their product to be able to fund things that are really going to drive value for them as a company. And Duncan, is yours?
Yeah, that's mine. Yeah, this is so Red Bull was an AMS client for 20+ years, and one of the ongoing challenges for drinks brand leaders such as Red Bull is how to maintain distribution and share of voice, where they've been constantly undercut, especially in the on-trade market. Reality is, a category leader, most bars and clubs want to stock Red Bull, but Red Bull were losing distribution to competitors who were significantly undercutting them in price just to gain distribution. As a client of ours, we help facilitate a corporate trade deal as part of their media buying with product, and then we took that product and we resold it back into a chain of independent bars who were ultimately replacing a competitor who was undercutting them on price. Provided Red Bull with additional media value, whilst also opening up totally new distribution points and weakening competitors' foothold at the same time. So it was a win-win in that regard. So that's kind of our short, sweet presentation on AMS and Active. So it's about how can we help you. You've got obviously two hugely experienced in the ground businesses. You know, we've been planning and buying media for 45 years. This year we have a track record with our clients of innovation. And most importantly, we've been working with Active for 30 years, and we've overseen as an agency over 100+ corporate trade deals.
So as Duncan said, we've been in the UK for 30 years, actually 35 years in the US where we're head office. Our real aim is to create as many opportunities for our clients to release the value they have in their stock, to be able to fund predominantly marketing, but also any wider business costs, because we also understand that sometimes clients can't fund marketing, but they still have bills to pay. And we do that in a way that we don't change the way they plan, they buy, they invoice. We try to do it in as smooth a way as possible to allow the clients to get the maximum benefit with the easiest solution that delivers the most value for them and solves a problem. And what I would say, just to sort of finalise this presentation, is that what we do, especially at Active International, is not something where we generate something out of nothing. What we do is we invest within our media owners in order to deliver best value for our clients. And what I always say to our clients when we speak to them is the best way to get the most benefit from us is to ask us loads of questions, because what we do, if you've never come across it before, is not normal. But what it is something that's hugely beneficial if you engage with it in the right way.
Okay, and I think as John said at the start, it's a standalone document of which you sent a copy, but our details are in there, and feel free to get in contact if you so wish.
And ask questions. The chat room is decidedly empty at the moment, but thank you very much indeed. And can you just come off the screen share so we can see as many people as we can?
Is that me off?
Yeah, that's you. That's perfect. It's really. I think that's absolutely fascinating. It covers a whole series of areas which. Being at heart a promotions man, I had no idea that there were companies like yours that could be a source of creating joint promotions and promotional stock. So anybody still involved in that sort of activity, that's a very interesting place to go. The other question I've got was really in terms of, you talked about in terms of the shared risk part of that, Duncan. You're talking about 10 or 15% of the budgets. Does it ever go higher than that when, at the moment, these things are media is not at a premium?
Yeah,
could you see more than that?
Yeah, well, I think obviously, to quote the word unprecedented, it's rapidly changing around us, and I think, you know, as much as, in all honesty, I want the market to harden up because it's good news for all of us. You know, there's certainly across Q2, there was some amazing deals to have if you were in a position to advertise. And I think as we go into Q3 into Q4, that will continue. So I don't think it's a 15%. Every deal's bespoke. There's not a hard and fast answer. But you know, there are deals where it's considerably more, if you like, less cash and more on the onus on the media owner to deliver. Because also what we're seeing in some instances, increased impacts being delivered by the media owners. You know, if you agree a pre-agreed target with the media owner, they would just keep putting that campaign out till they hit their target. So certainly from a shared risk, you know, I think as I said, it's more of all the onus is on the media owner, and it's certainly, if you've got the right product and a media owner that will listen, then it's some real value to be had.
Okay, Stephanie, can you come off mute, because you've got one of the questions I was going to ask, but it would come better from you, I think.
Probably not. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm fascinated. Both parts of the presentation, absolutely fascinating. I've got a copy about a question about content, but this one is about active. What, John? What inventory do you tend to have? How much in value, and what type of inventory do you have at any one time? If I've understood the model, you kind of have a nominal warehouse in the sky of inventory that you can call on. Is that right?
So are you talking about inventory from a media owner point of view, or even from a product
Both
point of view?
Product and media, yeah.
So we have a significant amount of investments with media owners at any one time, which we can draw down upon. From a client point of view, it all depends on the nature of the product. So we work with the likes of John Lewis, Jet2 Holidays, British Airways, EasyJet, and we will have capacity with them, which we hold on our books, which we then access for our clients in order for their business travel, etc. When it comes down to short-dated distressed products, things like FMCGs, we will tend to back those contracts. So the client will get them out of the client's warehouse to a remarketer, who will then get them into a different marketplace for us. So we don't have an aircraft hangar full of stuff, but we do have a spreadsheet with credits on there for goods and services.
Brilliant, that's great. Can I ask my other question as well?
Yeah, go on, keep going.
On the, I thought again, I can't remember the title, the content creation that Duncan talked about. Could you give us some sort of, could you give an example, if you're able to, of the sort of scope of a content program channel? Or?
Yeah. So I kind of loosely touched on it, because it's actually something that we're right in the middle of. But whereas if you imagine a client would come to us normally and say, I want to advertise, here's £1 million, which would be nice right now. Here's £1 million to spend on advertising. If we go the route of, you know, we call it de-risk because it's added value, is, you know, we can talk to the companies that sit in that space. In essence, as a brand, they will then go to a media owner. They will create that content for media owner. So in this example, we're talking about program. We're talking about creating a series that will be on mainstream TV over a set period of time. And in essence, you get that program for free. So it's kind of brand heaven to have a program that's you're right in the middle of and centered of. And why it's no risk is because that value that you're paying for the program, you're getting back in airtime. So that's generally how it works. So it's kind of double the value of what you would normally get for a normal advertising campaign. And it gives you, it potentially can give you global reach. You know, the deal that we're looking at the moment is a UK focused deal, but you've got content, and everyone needs content. You know, there's more and more minutage out there, so it's something potentially that the client is a part of and owns, and they're now a program provider. Yeah,
I mean, to sort of expand on what Duncan said there, we've invested in a number of programs over the last 3 years. One of which was then sold in 3 or 4 different countries. I know definitely in the US to the Smithsonian Channel, where we received the rights payments as it was sold in different countries, having actually had a deal which in essence was self-liquidating in the UK. We got added benefit as it was sold into different countries.
Wow, thank you.
Okay, Chris, you've got about average levels of spend. Do you want to build out on that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the presentation, guys. Super interesting. When you're talking to brands about taking their products, essentially putting a value on it, and then putting that towards a campaign, typically how much do you find that you're able to realise of the product? So you mentioned Henley and the champagne. Did you give them a £2 a bottle discount, or was it much more than that? Or how do you take a client's perceived value of their car or their bottle of champagne, put it towards a thing, to make it worth your while? Does it live at a significantly reduced stock amount, or can it sometimes be quite realistic?
To be honest with you, it all depends on the nature of the stock. So for the champagne as an example, that was sold at an agreed price between that the champagne house was happy with, but also because Henley was paying in tickets, they have margin built into it. You know, it doesn't actually, it's not there. It's not the opportunity cost of selling that ticket. It's the actual cost of supplying the goods for that ticket. So for them, there's a real benefit on actually paying a market price for the product, but paying it in their tickets. When it comes down to anything else we deal with, if it's media, it's at the negotiated price of the agency. If it's product, it depends on the product, because there are products where, because of our investment position with a media owner, because the product has such a high intrinsic value, cars being an example, then maybe 50 or 60% of a media campaign can be paid for in cars. Whereas if it's something like short dated packets of product, it's got a much lower intrinsic value. Therefore, the ability for that to fund part of a media campaign is reduced. But the price we achieve is always then shared with the client, so they know what we're achieving for it, where it's going to more importantly, because that's the one thing we want to concern ourselves with is where that product going to go to, so therefore it doesn't damage the brand, because we'd rather not do an agreement if we think the product's going to go to somewhere that's not going to be right for the brand, either from a brand nature point of view, or that it'll be brand damaging. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I suppose for this audience, which is agency people, how does the agency interrelate with you guys, and how is the agency remunerated? Because you've got quite a chain between clients, media owners, themselves. You know, we've tried to stay away from this word bartering, but it is a line of bartering across the whole system. So how does the agency or the people on this call, how do they get rewarded?
So we sit alongside the agency as a partner when it comes down to the planning, the buying, and also the placement of the media. Because what we will do is we will sit between the agency and the media owner. So we take over as principal for payment, because we will pay the media owner based on our terms with them. So we may be paying them part cash, part trade credits. We may be paying them in a service. So when it comes down to the invoicing process, we take over as principal, but we work in partnership with the agency to deliver, in essence, the best plan for the client that uses either the most trade credits or is able to be funded with the most amount of stock. But we will never do anything that damages the actual plan, because what we would never want is the tail wagging the dog, in essence, barter or corporate trade or stock making the plan or pushing the plan in a certain direction, which is not right for the client's KPIs.
And just going back to the Henley champagne argument, did the champagne company get some naming rights as part of Henley, as part of the deal as well?
Less so about naming rights, because it wasn't so much a promotion, it was more about them being the key supplier to it. But obviously they had a bottle of their product, bottles behind the bar, bottles on every table, so they had a presence within it. We have done stuff for other brands. So we worked with we worked with a Russian vodka brand, who we actually used them in a big charity event where they had their brand actually showing on as a key sponsor within it, even though they'd actually only supplied the product to part fund the marketing campaign. We found that as an outlet for them. So we don't tend to negotiate a full promotional package alongside what we're doing, but often they get quite a good presence because of the fact that we tend to oversupply the amount of product they need, and also that that they tend to be the house brand of vodka or the house champagne, so they're very present at the event.
I suppose the same question to you, Duncan, in terms of, if an agency approaches you and has a kind of a client with stock and you're doing a media plan, how does the agency get remunerated in that partnership?
Absolutely, and I think as John says, we obviously, as a kind of media planning buying out, we approach everything from neutrality. So it is still very much about the right channel for the right client at the right time. And then within that, we obviously factor in some of the kind of deals that we were talking about, shared risk, etc. We're pretty upfront and transparent on that. If an agency brings us a piece of business, we will pay them a percentage of our income over the first year. So that's generally how we work with referrals, which is obviously we get a lot of business referrals from creative PR agencies that we've worked with. So it's pretty much as straightforward as that, Clive.
Right.
And Clive, I was going to say, because I actually don't think I answered the full of your last question. From our point of view, we pay agencies for their time, in terms of, we know that it takes time to be able to sell in our opportunity, and really it's for the introduction. So by introducing us to your client, because it is someone who you've been appointed by, and bringing the concept of corporate trade to them, you are in essence allowing us to a warm introduction, and we will obviously remunerate brands based on that.
Is there anybody on the call who's actually worked through a media or value-added bartering business before? Or is this new territory for anybody? I'll throw that out because I've been aware of it, but it's only today I've really kind of started to understand how this could be pulled together, because I think that by us bringing this opportunity to our members and to the independent agency community, we're demonstrating that there's more of a partnership here than there is necessarily competitive conflict.
Yeah. I think there's two things, as we said. We could talk about products. So the assumption is that there's a lot of clients out there that are struggling to get products out for various reasons. And equally, there'll be clients out there that possibly haven't looked at advertising before. Actually, the way the market is at the moment and the flexibility. And I know I did put it in there, but what I would say is from our experience, and obviously as an agency we've been planning and buying for quite some time, is that there's a real willingness from the media owners right now. They want to see us all get out the other side. So I really believe that the independents are best placed to mop up a lot of this value that's out there, and it's a real opportunity for brands that probably haven't considered advertising before to look at it, because it's more doable, it's more affordable.
And as Stephanie quite rightly highlighted in the chat thing, how does procurement approach this?
From a corporate trade point of view, I mean, we are, we're a strange bunch in corporate trade, in the fact that some of our biggest friends are CFOs and procurement people, because the procurement guys, the great thing about what we do when we work with the likes of a corporate energy contract for ITV is we don't change the way they contract direct, because it's a service agreement. They negotiate their service levels. It is a full competitive pitch. It's just that some of the clients that we work with, so in the example of SSE and ITV, because SSE worked with us and we placed their advertising, so therefore we had an energy credit with them, it meant that they had a competitive advantage over the other three players in the pitch process. So ITV still got their pricing, their rates that they wanted, their green credentials they wanted, but on top of that, they were able to part fund it in airtime. So that was enough to sway it in a like-for-like pitch against the competition.
And what's the strangest product area that you've traded for media?
Strangest thing, I think.
I mean, cars and holidays are, in maybe other times, kind of obvious choices in cruises. Yeah. But We all work on
keep pushing him, Clive. Keep pushing him.
I think no, I'm going to go on because there has been some weird and wonderful, but I'm going to go on one because I know Mark Chippendale's on the call, so I'm going to go on one of his favourites. So one of our partners actually, because people always think about corporate trade, they think about product, tangible product that you hold in your hand, tins of beans, or you drive a car. But we do quite a lot in plant and machinery because it's a depreciating asset. It gets written down over a number of years, but at the end of its life, it has a value. Because something that is in a high-end company, yes, he's put industrial steamer out there. He's just sent me a message. So we work with a company who they actually sold as an industrial steamer, where it had been through. They depreciated over a number of years. It still had a large intrinsic value and could be used by another business. And we purchased that asset from them because for them it was end of life, but it was completely usable. They used the value we gave them for that steamer to fund a TV campaign, so it was beneficial to them. And we found someone else to use it. So it sort of adds to our green credentials as well because it's not going to be dismantled or landfill. So a lot of the time we will sit and look at things like assets and take those. We've had I think when in the past we've had microbreweries, we've had canning lines, anything that is that is an asset to a business we can work with.
Have you ever been left with a lot of stock?
I wouldn't have been in the company for 12 years if I dropped us in at any point so far. But what we do tend to do, and I sort of touched on it with Stephanie's conversation earlier, is that if it's something where we would rather not do a deal than do something that's damaging. And obviously, if you're left with something, you then start to get more desperate, and it might make you make decisions you don't want to do. So we would rather not do a deal if we can't find a market for the stock that is appropriate for that stock and non-damaging to the brand. I think from our point of view, the only things that we get an excess of are the things that we want to have an excess of because we can utilize them over a number of years. So we will get products from clients. I think probably the thing that I did get stuck with is that there was a brand that we did, we're talking 6 years ago. We did the sponsorship of Take Me Out, one of the first seasons, with a brand called Ice Watch. And I think as part payment for that, we got something in the region of about 60,000 watches. And I think we were still trying to get rid of them, or we still had that couple of thousand left about 4 or 5 years later. But every member of staff had at least 3 of them. Most of our customers had one. But it was one of those ones where we'd actually done really well out of the transaction itself in terms of how it worked with ITV. So it wasn't a cost to the business. It was just one of those things that keeps getting brought out in terms of, right, okay, if someone asks us for a prize for a golf event or for some sort of internal raffle, let's get rid of the ice watches.
I suppose the thing which strikes me is this isn't the and going back to your point, Duncan, about unprecedented times, this isn't in people's normal thought processes, but what it feels like it should be because we are in unprecedented times. At what point do you think when we're looking at a client's problem and we think we've got a solution, should we be thinking about using their product, their stock, as a way of subsidizing the comms, the media, as opposed to doing it in the more traditional thing where we think we can beat somebody down on price?
But I think I know that was directed at Duncan, but from my point of view, it doesn't have to work in isolation. It's not barter or working with Duncan in terms of an ad funded program or whatever it might be. By being joined up together, you can get the benefit in terms of the negotiated prices for the client, but also you can get barter involved as well. But it's about approaching with a legitimate client solution. So the client has got a physical problem that we can help them solve, and a way of driving more value for them, but going to the media owners together as partners between corporate trade company and agency in order to get the most benefit for that client.
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of the kind of legacy arrangements, how business is done between an agency and a media owner and a client, a lot of those are changing quite rapidly. So I think right now, I think cash is still king, but I think media owners are open to a lot more conversations regarding products, regarding added value, content, etc., than ever before. And I think what we've definitely seen is the market right now is becoming more and more short term. And there's every reason to assume that will continue for quite some time. So I think as we go into next year, I think some of the more harder media owners, without naming names, that historically have had hard pricing policies in terms of what they charge, when they expect to be paid, and how they're paid. I think a lot of that will start to break away, and there'll be some real opportunities for a lot more brands to run mainstream media campaigns.
Right, because that leads on to my other question in terms of which is the most appropriate media or the best media for this kind of arrangement, and which is the one which is the hardest and you're least likely to get them to accept stock or benefit in kind as a means of payment.
So which is the most appropriate media? It's what is the most appropriate media for the client's plan. Because from our point of view, we trade with everyone, and
except Google and Apple.
Except Google and Facebook. But
Facebook, sorry.
Yeah, for some reason they don't want us to pay for stuff for them because I think they've got enough cash. But in terms of we want to make sure that the client gets the plans that they want that deliver for them first and foremost. In terms of the areas where we have, and because we're talking to a group of people who have independent agencies, everything is open in terms of being able to talk about TV, out of home press, even areas of digital, cinema, etc. They're all areas where we have relationships, and because of the fact that you're bringing them, in essence, people who maybe haven't advertised above the line previously because they haven't had the budget to do so, but by working with us, we can maybe generate those budgets. They'll be welcomed with open arms.
I think when you've got a shortfall of between 4 and 7 billion, I think most media owners will be open to deals. People at ITV, for example, historically probably are less likely to look at alternate trading routes, but I think they are starting to look at some of that. I know they've been talking about deferred payment terms for clients. So I think everyone's suffering. Everyone's not selling their inventory. Some are obviously in a horrendous place. Cinema's not in a good place. Out home's not in a good place. Some of them are coming back. Print's doing pretty well. Radio seems to be holding up pretty strong. But the reality is there's a massive hole in the market, and therefore they need to fill it. They'd rather fill it than not.
Right. Well, I think that, and I suppose as we enter the last 5 minutes, I suppose the question is, how do we, now we've been exposed to this, how do we make, as a group, make the most of this opportunity? I mean, presenting it is one thing, but is there anything practical that we can do to ensure that people can start to think more in this line?
Well, I guess it's spreading the word, isn't it? It's making sure that all the touch points of all the members that we feel are relevant are aware of these opportunities at one end with the media owner, and equally with their products. That they've got this product that they don't know what to do with, but actually they can use it to different use.
I think it's. I heard, a few months ago at the beginning of all this, there was an agency who was looking to get a media campaign away, and in fact, it was a beer brand, and they actually used the beer as a piece of barter, and therefore the agency was, when there wasn't enough cash from the client, was able to get the campaign away when they didn't feel that they could. This was before all of that. Mm-hmm. So it's not whether they can find a way of getting rid of it, but actually using their asset to pay for their media budget, which is why I was asking the question about how far can you push it? Are you only talking about 15%, or could it go 25%, or could it be 50%?
In terms of, from a corporate trade point of view, it could be up to 100%. It's all down to the nature of the product, because we know, and 100% wouldn't be any single media owner out there. We know we've got certain media owners where we have really, really efficient positions, and therefore if there's enough value, intrinsic value in the stock, they may be able to fund the whole campaign with that stock. But then you are getting the tail wagging the dog, because it will only be certain positions that are able to do that with.
Yeah. And in fact, Chris has just put up, and for Chris and Simon's benefit from Wasserman, they're asking about whether you can trade product for live media space, and site fees and things like that, which goes beyond the traditional media, but to more ambient media.
We tend to work in the above the line marketplace, so we haven't really got any positions in that area. We do look at, you know, working with any of our clients. We try and fulfill as many of their costs as possible, but we tend to work best with above the line companies and above the line media agencies and clients that spend above the line. But you know, I think if you wanted to have a wider conversation, I'd need to understand more about the proposition to see if it's something that we could work with.
Okay.
And Clive, just to sort of just touch on what you said, what's the best way of getting the most value from it is that, you know, Active, we don't charge for our time. You know, we make our money on the transaction. Is that we get, you know, the most benefit for our clients by people doing the I wonder ifs or giving us a challenge, you know, because that's when we actually see what we can do and it gets us thinking. So, you know, if people have got a solution, we can usually give you a very quick answer of whether it's worth pursuing or not.
Okay, that seems like a very good place. And Stephanie's put up that she'll be very happy to present this presentation to her team and get them thinking in perhaps a different way for these unprecedented times. So as we approach 6 o'clock, the witching hour, thank you very much indeed, Duncan. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, John. And thank you. And so for Active and AMS, thank you very much indeed. I hope it was stimulating for everybody to think differently and ways of using budgets or creating budget when you didn't think there was a budget there, because we're all out there promoting products and services that has a value to somebody else. And if it's a media owner, that's really good. So thank you very much. We will share the document.
Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping in.
Yeah.
I think, and if Stephanie, if anyone wants me and John to go back through that again with their team, more than happy.
Yeah.
So
we'll take the team
I think
on the road.
it would just be great to kind of almost have a sort of a brainstorm with you guys, with
sure.
four of my senior team, because I think there's definitely some things we can do together. Definitely.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
it's certainly something that we'll be promoting more, and Terry will send for all the people who registered the document, and we will be taking it on. So thank you very much indeed for helping us think differently and think different, do different. And thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
Have a great
everybody.
evening.
All right. Have a good weekend. We're nearly there. All right. Thanks a lot. See ya.
Cheers.
Okay.
See
Bye.
ya.
Bye.